Hello everyone, I'm Garima.
And I'm Akhil.
We are your host and you're listening to Cybersecurity Mavens by BeSecure app. So this is a podcast interview series where we will be talking to passionate influencers and experts out there in the field of security, know about their experiences and get to know what cool stuff they are doing. Let's kickstart the journey with our wonderful guest over here, Mr. Avinash Jain. Talking about Avinash, at present he is working with CRED as a lead security engineer. He has also worked with organizations like MMT and Grofers. He is an amazing blogger, a passionate security researcher, and has been appreciated by many top-notch organizations that include some big names like Google, NASA, LinkedIn, Yahoo, and many more in the list. So let's quickly explore his journey in the field of security and talk about his notion on the growing dynamics in this field. Over to you, Avinash. We'd like to know how your journey has been throughout and how it all started.
Hey, Garima. Thanks a lot for giving such a nice introduction. And again, thanks a lot for having me here. As you explained that I'm currently working with CRED as a lead security engineer. Earlier, I was heading security at India's largest online grocery, which is Grofers. I started my corporate journey working with some pioneering companies like Expedia and MakeMyTrip. During my working tenure of last 6 years, I have got exposure to a variety of security verticals, namely application security, network security, infrastructure, cloud, CI/CD, DevOps, audit and compliance as well. I love to break application logics, find vulnerabilities in them, and that's how my social handle came from, which is Logic Bomb. I've been acknowledged by various MNCs like Google, Yahoo, VMware, MongoDB, to name a few, and some top companies of India as well, whether like Byju's, Zerodha, Dream11, many more. I try to contribute to infrastructure communities through my blogs, and that's how I'm an active blogger on Medium, where I write about interesting vulnerabilities that I find, some security research that I do, data privacy issues that I find, and everything about security. Some of my articles and interviews got published in various security magazines and newspapers like Forbes magazine, BBC, TechCrunch, Economist Times, Huffington Post, and HackerOne as well. I'm also a cybersecurity speaker. I always love to share my views on various infosec threats.
That's great, Avinash. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. So, Avinash, as you said, like you have been in this industry since past 6 years. We all know the field of security has just rapidly grown within the last 10 years and in a very unexpected manner, especially for like big organizations. And they have literally struggled a lot in adapting this evolving nature of security. So, as per your journey till now, what are the changes you have observed in the security culture implemented in organizations throughout these years? Like, what's the graph according to you?
Yeah, I think the past decade has totally, transformed the perspective of organizations towards security, how it used to be. If you see around, lots of data breaches has been happening. Every day you learn about some new data breach coming up. There's lots of, name given to bug bounty hunters. You see lots of, there are lots of bug bounty platform coming up like HackerOne, Bugcrowd. Companies are launching their own vulnerability responsible disclosure policies. All this has completely changed not just the ecosystem of security, but also the ecosystem of ethical hacking, which obviously has drawn attention from every type of company, with not just a company which is just set up, not just a startup, but also all the MNCs that you have. Their perspective towards application security and most importantly data security has completely changed, which was missing earlier. If you talk about specifically about Indian ecosystem, you will see that that the past decade has been the decade of startups, with government taking lots of initiative under Digital India, Startup India, AngelList. All of them want to quickly deliver the high quality products to their customer without much delay. They want to become more and more agile in their concepts, in their methodologies, And that is how, the concept of agile and DevSecOps is coming up, where now organization is trying to evolve security at every stage of the SDLC, not just the stage, but at the early stages of it. And this is basically not because they have gone towards a more productive mindset, but this is because they don't want to waste much time into security later stage. Their mindset is like, which says that we don't want to waste much time and delay our delivery for security testing. Let's do it now. Let's do it early and let's do it now. I think these are the changes which has been there in the past 10 years. Organization has started taking customer data and data security with utmost importance, just because of all the data breaches that's happening around. It's just creating a kind of havoc mindset among people. So if they are not proactive there, they have to be a reactive approach from them. I think all of this has changing the ecosystem security that we are now living within.
That's true, Avinash. I totally agree on it. So over the period of time, government definitely helped us out in getting in new policies and compliance structures, especially for startups. And you have been working with many startups like MakeMyTrip, Grofers, and now Cred. So one common thing that I've observed is when you join this organization, those organizations were at a stage of scaling users, their infrastructure, microservices, and so on. Like, what are the common challenges that you have come across in these organizations with respect to security? Like, especially when they're focusing on scaling the users, how do you kind of take care of the security challenges, and what were the common security challenges as such?
Yeah, I think whether it is a big firm like Expedia or whether the startups like Grofers and Cred, there's one thing which I've seen common in all of these firms, and this is a challenge which not just in a startup or not just a medium scale, but every firm faces. This is about how you aware your employees about security, and the security awareness is something which is not currently stable, and people just generally take security awareness exercise in like it is a one-off exercise, but it is not something that you do now and you then forget for the complete year. It has to be regular. It has to be consistent in a way that people not only just learn from it, but rather enjoy it. If you see, how security awareness taken control in the past decade, companies are moreover doing this as a kind of formality, whether it is because of compliance or whether it is because of their own reason. But at the end, people are not able to learn what they want to learn. The companies are not able to achieve what they actually want to achieve. It is just become a kind of passing test. People just do it and then just forget it. Company has to make it more enjoyable for their own employees. It should be gamified in a way that people actually learn from these exercises, from security awareness trainings and all those development exercises. This is one thing which I have personally experienced. The company's security awareness trainings and development are not actually benefiting their employees, and just because it is not, people are not able to enjoy it. When you corner term security, it generally creates a kind of friction in developers' mind that if something comes like security, they will have to it will regress back their productivity, and because of that, the whole ecosystem is dragging back. I think this is one of the main challenges that I think all the levels of company is currently facing. The other challenge that I feel is technically, which is like more deeply into security, is how companies are effectively managing their vulnerability system, their vulnerability process. As you grow, you bring more and more assets. As you grow, you develop more products, you develop more features, and you deploy more technologies and more framework. What currently the organization missing is having a strong vulnerability management process. Whether the idea is not to just perform vulnerability scanning, the idea is not to just do a quarterly audits or quarterly periodic vulnerability automated scanning, but the idea should be how to make it continuous approach to in order to increase the visibility of your own asset, of your own vulnerable spheres. The company should know what are the surface area from they can be hacked. I think that there's one challenge the company are still facing, having an effective vulnerability management process where the idea is to have increased visibility over their vulnerable spheres, increase visibility over asset and vulnerabilities, and enable the teams for the rapid remediation. I think these are the two challenges which I've seen companies from every scale is currently facing.
Yes, Avinash, that's actually true. When you're talking about awareness, yes, security is still a big thing for companies and employees, and they're quite afraid of it a bit. Even I think the organizations today need to reframe their standards and policies in line to not only their business objectives, but as well as the information security. Like they need to understand this, what we call as hacker methodology, to implement security in their organizations. So in this approach, what's your take on to the compliance? Is it an important actor here?
Yep, definitely. If you see data security, just keep aside compliance for a minute. Let me make a backstory about compliance. If you see currently what is the need of the hour is about customer data. Everyone's trying to prevent their customer data because of all the data breaches that has been happening around. And because today's business is holding more data than ever, this comes a raft of responsibility for the companies towards how they are actually storing the information, how the customer information are being shared and protected and used in their own companies. If you see the recent scandals and scams that's happened in the past with Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, it clearly shows what can happen if your data is misused. And there's also a prospect of the financial penalties that company has to pay. When you suffer a data breach, there's a huge cost that you are going to face in the near time. And this number of data breaches and complexity of regulation has already been complied with the increase significant of customer data, and where this data compliance come into picture. Data compliance has become more critical than ever, just because now how people and now how companies have started, not just company, but how even investors has started seeking whether company can protect their customer data or not. And not just company, I think people are much more smarter now. People are much more aware about what could potentially happen to them if their customer data, if their PI information or their mail name ID, name or mail ID, mobile number get leaked. I think that's completely change the perspective of now how companies taking the compliance. Earlier, compliance used to be a kind of test that they used to pass or they want to pass just to make sure to the standards. Now compliance has become the need of it. They just don't want to pass it, but they need to pass it in order to move forward. So in a note, compliance has really taken up a huge control now. It's not now a kind of exercise which company needs to pass, but it has become the need for them to pass it. It has become the need for their business to grow, and even the customers and the investors are also more keen to know whether the company are establishing their own compliance instead or not.
True, Avinash. Previously, it was more like compliance was like a luxury or a comfort zone, but nowadays it's kind of a necessity for every organization. Personally, I have been working with many small and medium-sized BFSI companies, and what I've noticed is that the mentality or the culture that has been changed over a period of time has been amazing. So before, people used to do compliance for namesake, but today they really care about user data, customer data, and they get the things rolling. So one thing that I've observed that you in the past have kind of implemented some amazing process technology in all the organizations that you have worked with, and VPC traffic mirroring and so on. That is something that we have been also working for a very long time, like implementing IDS, IPS solutions and so on. So what are the tools that you really focus on when it comes to continuous monitoring, incident response? How do you bring in this zero trust policy into the organization?
Yeah, I think tools are something which, if you are, if you know what tool to use, if you know what you are going to achieve, if you know what you are going to do, you will obviously find an app tool for it. Rather than tool, it is more likely the implementation part here. You can buy a paid tool, or you can research about an open source tool, and then you, if it satisfies your requirements, you can obviously go ahead and implement what you want to do. But here the main challenge that I have faced is how the implementation work here. How scalable is your tool? How scalable is your technology that you now going to spend money on? You can obviously come and install your tool on, if it is an easy means tool or if it is a cloud based tool. But the idea is to how to make it scale. Currently your organization has suppose X amount of data. What happened if that X amount of data grew to 10x amount of data? Will your tool will be able to suffice the need? So I think that implementation part has become more important rather than just implementing tools. If I talk about what I have previously done, I have making whether making CI/CD secure, or whether bringing DevSecOps, whether doing application security or enterprise security, it's not more about the tools for me, but it's about how scalable are those. What are the ROI that they will give to me in the longer term? If I spend X amount of money now on that particular tool, and if I grow to 10x in the coming time, will that tool be able to give me the money back? So I think these are the questions which I answers before, which I try to find the answer for before I go and implement any kind of tool.
Avinash, as you just mentioned about the CI/CD pipeline and DevSecOps, I just remember one of your blogs, actually not one, but I think you have done a lot of work in deploying security at the root level of SDLC, and especially promoting the shift left approach. So currently this concept is gaining a lot of momentum. So tell us something about the shift left approach, and how do you think it can actually bring a change in the security standards of the applications deployed by the organizations?
Yeah, I think when I talked about how company are scaling fast, and when you want to scale fast, you often fail fast also, and this is something which companies now bring: fail fast and fail often. This is just to make sure that whatever they are doing it very fast, and if they are failing at any point of time, they are learning out of it. And at the end, the reason why they want to do is to make sure they deliver the product on time. They deliver the product early to their customers, and before their competitor rolls those kind of feature product to their customers. And I think that's the reason that now people started bringing companies that started bringing the concept of shift left or DevSecOps. This is more about how you drive a mindset rather than the implementation part. It is obviously you bring your security close to your SDLC cycles. You bring your security close to your developers, and put on security at every part of SDLC cycles. But it is more about also to make sure that everyone in the DevOps team, or everyone in the engineering team, realize what their part is. Because when you bring a concept of shift left, or when you bring a concept of DevSecOps, it is not more of a implementation part, but it is more a kind of mindset change that you are bringing. Because security is generally seen as something which bring friction to developers' productivity, and hence not everyone enjoys it. So this is the main reason why not just the implementation part here, but the mindset change is required when you talk about shift left. And working with previous firm, and currently also working to make sure that we bring security close to our developers and close to the source of the code. The main challenge is to make sure that everyone in the company, everyone in the engineering team realize that what their responsibility towards security. Because at the end, it will be your product team who is designing the product future. It will be your developers who are actually coding it. It will be your tester who are finding bugs, and then again developers will be fixing them. So at the end, these are your engineering team are there to make sure that whatever they're building is securely. So that mindset change is more required rather than just go ahead and bring about shift left or DevSecOps culture. People generally see that if they bring shift left or if they bring a DevSecOps culture, they will be able to iterate fast. They will be able to do security testing fast. But at the end, it brings a cobra effect. They see that it brings a positive, but at the end, because they are not completely ready, they are not completely ready with the implementation part, they generally fails. So I think there's more challenge to shift left when rather than just the implementation part. It's that you have to bring a change in the mindset of your employees, of your engineers, how they see security and how they can realize that they are also a part of security.
Sure. Thanks, Avinash. So one thing that I've observed from my personal experience is that like implementing DevSecOps into organizations that have team members of 5 to 10 is pretty much easier. But imagine implementing or introducing DevSecOps into an organization that has around 100 developers or 200 developers. In the first place, they have a sprint for 2 weeks. And then by any chance, if DevSecOps kind of pushes the sprints to 3 or 4 weeks, that's going to be a biggest problem and biggest challenge. So when we used to implement threat modeling and when we used to do pre-commit checks and then post-commit checks as well as something inside CI/CD, at first I've definitely observed that sprints used to take a longer time. But as soon as when developers got used to it, like they've adapted to it, I've definitely seen that DevSecOps is or shifting security to the left was never a challenge if it is like done right. And it's all about what kind of measures or what kind of process or tools that you bring in at what time. Like you can't do everything on the first day itself. You just have to figure out what are the most vulnerable areas or where it can actually fit, introduce those first, and then later probably if that part is going well, then introduce the newer stuff and kind of achieve the ultimate goal. So I'm pretty sure, Avinash, you might have also faced similar kind of issues, like prolonged sprints at first, developers having a really, like pain to adopt this new kind of culture and stuff. So how did you overcome these kind of challenges? Like making sure that developers really hate security people? Like how did you handle this on a personal level as well as on a company level?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the challenge. That's a very common challenge which every company faces when they try to bring anything new. It's not just about DevSecOps or not just about shift left. And I think new which bring a friction to anyone, people try to just stay away from it. And talking specifically about bringing change in DevOps environment, bringing DevSecOps principle and bringing shift left. This obviously seen as because you are now bringing security and you are now integrating security in the SDLC cycles. And earlier you used to follow a traditional way of security testing, doing security testing at the end of the SDLC cycles, where no one was aware what is happening at that, because everything is happening at the end when you talk about security. Now, because you're bringing security at the front picture, people now started seeing what something has come up, and when suddenly something comes up, they obviously are not able to custom themselves to certain changes. And I think that's a challenge which generally happens, which I also personally faced. Developers try to stay away and try to say that they don't want to mess up their developers' productivity. It will harm their productivity. It will harm it will delay the release cycles and release product delivery. In order to overcome those, the first thing that we working with my previous firms, we realized that it is necessary to bring that change, whether these developers and engineers start seeing us as a facilitator rather than a blocker. Security is something which is usually seen as a blocker. People generally see that security, if something comes talking about security, it will delay their productivity. It will delay the product delivery, the timelines, and generally people just stay from it. rather than, you have to change the mindset of people. You have to change, you have to tell them that security is not your blocker, but it is facilitating you to work securely. And just telling them won't work. You have to bring some alternative tools for them. And this is how, currently I have done a lots of work in order to make sure that they are alternative for the employees. Unless there's no alternative for them, they will be following the same traditional way of doing things. You have to bring some alternative tools and alternative services to make sure they are working securely. And I think that's a key area which with the time I realized, and fortunately this has worked with us. We started thinking about what are the things that are blocking developers from achieving that level of productivity when you talk about security. And then we started finding out what are the alternative tools that we can plug in within their own within developers framework, and what technology or what tech stack they are using, and all those things are happening parallelly. And I think that's when I basically I will say that I achieve what I wanted to achieve. Integrating security within the CI/CD pipelines, or bringing security to the left of SDLC cycles. All of this happened because we were able to bring that mindset change, telling them that we are not a blocker for you, but we are a facilitator. How? Let us prove us. And then we started implementing all those kind of alternative tooling and services for them to make sure that they learn from it and they also grow with it. We started giving them some infographic mailers and videos to understand that if you do this, then what could just not happen to the organization, but also happen to you. And then they come up with, what should I do now? Then we bring some alternative tools for them. And then I think that's when you bring some alternative options for that people, obviously people now are ready to use it. Because earlier, if you just say that we will be doing some secret scanning repository, people will say that it will take time, and again it will affect our productivity. But if you say them there's an alternative tool, you just need to write your code, automatically scan parallelly if you are committing, and at the same time it will tell you that you are committing something wrong. And so people enjoys it. People do not then now, because it is obviously not taking much of their time. There's obviously kind of alternative option for them, which is actually helping them to work securely. I think these are the key solutions that I have previously implemented and currently also working to make sure whatever we are bringing in the name of security, it's actually accepted by the developers. Not just accepted, but thoroughly enjoyed by them.
That's great, Avinash. As you said before, it's important to change the mentality of the developers, as well as of need to understand that security can never be an obstruction in their path. So yes, it has become the need of time, and it's important for organizations to implement this concept of secure SDLC. I just like to know about one of your write-ups that sounds really fascinating. The heading goes as exposed Jira servers leaks NASA staff and project data. So I'd like to know about it. What was it and how did you find it?
Yeah, I think that vulnerability was not just impacting NASA, but it was impacting various bigger firms, and I think hundreds of companies were from the top Fortune list as well. That vulnerability was about how a misconfiguration in a Jira can lead to exposing your project details and your staff data outside to the world. In my previous company, we were using Jira, and that's how I able to basically find out what was that misconfiguration was all about. That misconfiguration was because of two things. Firstly, there was a default setting which keeps your project details and your user data publicly accessible outside world. That misconfiguration was there, and that is because that was a default setting. If it would have been inverse setting, that all your project data and project details along with your staff details are private by default, then probably you need to go and change it to create a vulnerability in your own tool. But because it was default it was there by default, that created a bigger risk there. The other thing was how Jira was communicating what communicating in that particular feature. So the feature that exposing their own staff data out, the communication that they are trading there was kind of not able to clearly understand. So they says that this particular feature will expose it, will basically make it public. And what generally perceive from it is that it will make it public within your organization. I think the word public was missing that in that security warning, and people think that if I enable this will only make it visible to my own company who are using my own Jira or Atas product. But what it does, it basically make it public to the whole outside world. I think that's one of the mistake that Jira did it was to how they were communicating their own security warning, what will happen if you do this particular setting. Now, I think after I reported this vulnerability to NASA, and then I found that there are 1,000 and 100 of companies were impacted by that. I started approaching individually to them also, because Jira was there, saying that it is not our part. It is how client are installing the Jira in their servers. It is their responsibility to make sure the settings are hardened. But at the end, there's a mistake from Jira side also, from Atlassian side also. The mistake was that the setting was public by default. If it would have been private by default, nobody was impacted by this. And the second thing, the security warning that they were giving was unclear. So if they who have been saying clearly that it will make public to the entire world or to the complete internet, it would give more sense that if I tweak this setting, this will happen. So I think these are the two main reasons why that particular vulnerability happened, and not just to NASA, but I think all the major companies out there, even Google, Yahoo. I found it in every startup which were using Jira, and not just startup, but all the biggest firms. As I talk about, most of the companies are also from the top Fortune list. So yeah, this is the vulnerabilities all about.
That's really awesome, Avinash. I've personally read the blog multiple times, and that was such a good read. But first of all, thank you so much for joining this podcast. But before we leave, I just want to know one thing from you. Is Avinash Jain working on anything special now? Can we read more blogs about such cool stuff in the near future?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I've been doing very regularly is making sure that I'm giving back to the community, and I find blogging is an area where I can contribute because it comes. I've been liking blogging, and it's good that people are appreciating and people are actually learning from it. I found that various companies and various firms reaching out to me through my blogs and through my sharing that how you have done this and how you can help us, how we can do it, and how can we implement it. I think in the coming time also I'm currently working on automating the complete automating the company's security of CI/CD pipelines, or if you say integrating security in CI/CD pipelines. My coming blog is also about how you can make sure you bring security within AWS code pipeline, and how to basically automate it. I'm working on some automation part also, where you just need to run it and it will integrate security in your CI/CD pipelines. Not just static checks, but there are multiple flexible checks, container security checks, dash scanning, SAS scanning, and all those things. Apart from that, I'm actually working on some tool also. I'm working on to make it open source. Will probably come in maybe next quarter or so. So yeah, these are near time plans, and obviously you will see more blogs and more tools coming near time.
We are very excited, Avinash. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Avinash.
Thanks a lot, guys, for having me. Thank you.